Storm, my name's Keith, and in today's video we are back on my TVR Tamora. I haven't actually done a video on it for a while. That's because I've been out in it, driving it around and really enjoying driving and showing the car off. So in today's video, I've got a problem with a broken seatbelt stalk, which means I need to remove the seat to get it replaced. I've also got some plans for the future here. So you'll see I've got this lovely red rocker cover, purely aesthetic, purely to make it look pretty under the bonnet. And I've also got a full service kit here. I bought all these bits from Motaclan. They are really, really good. If you need bits for your TVR, I would thoroughly recommend using them. I'll put a link in the description down the bottom. So if you fancy seeing me tackle a 12k service on the TVR with the Speed 6 engine, same as the Tuscan, the Sagaris, and fitted in some Cerberas, please get subscribed and hit that bell notification button. We'll be doing a 12k service as well as checking all the valve clearances, fitting a new rocker cover. I've got some new flashy, shiny stainless steel hardware, and the plug cover, I'm going to give it a go with this wrinkle plus paint just to give it a nice aesthetic finish. So the problem for today is I need to fix the seatbelt buckle. It's this bit here that you plug into, and what would happen, or what has happened a couple of times, I've had it plugged in and it just disconnects itself, which is a bit disconcerting in a sports car like this. And I went to go out in it the other day and it is just broken completely. It will not plug in at all now, and when I had a look down the side, you can actually see the casing of it has broken. Now this seatbelt buckle is bolted directly to the seat, so it means I need to get the seat out to access it or to replace it. And obviously it's broken, so it's not legal to drive it like that. So I want to get it fixed as quickly as possible. I could have searched around to see if I could find the part elsewhere, second-hand one or something like that. But a brand new one was available from Motaclan. It was about £55, and just my knowledge of Motaclan and having used them before, if you order before like 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock on that day, it will get dispatched same day and will be with you the next day in most cases. So I want to get the car back on the road, so I've placed the order with Motaclan. Now we need to get this seat out. I'll try and get some video of it, but the seat is bolted from underneath. So I'll get down on my hands and knees. Hopefully I don't have to jack the car up, or I might just get the jack under one side just to lift it up a little bit, just to give us a bit more clearance on the floor and make life a bit less of a struggle. Right, so I have jacked up the back end of the car, just because the seat sits more towards the back wheels than the front wheels, just to give me a bit more room underneath. You probably could do it with on the floor without a jack, but why struggle? And then when we get underneath, there are literally 4 nuts. They're nylock nuts. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've put a bit of penetrating oil on them. We don't want anything breaking. Should be relatively straightforward to get off. And when you're jacking up on the back, it's right in this rear corner. You'll see there's a bit of triangulation there. We've put a soft wooden block on there just to make sure we're not damaging any paintwork. Now I'm just going to buzz them off. It should be as simple as that. Right, so it looks like the back bolts are captive, but the front ones are spinning. So I've got to look inside and see, there must be able to get a spanner on the other end there. There's a couple of washers here as well, which are stuck at the moment, but when I wiggle the seat round, they will drop off. So we need to pick them up afterwards. Right, so with the seat all the way forward now and reclined forward as well, you can see if we look in the back, we've got the bolts that go down. They're in the middle of the rail, and just because of the way the rail's shaped, that holds the bolt in place. So both sides, so that's no problem on the back. On the front, a little bit more tricky though. So on the front, a lot more tricky. So if you look inside the rail there, we can see the bolt. Hopefully you can see it. And it's just spinning around. Obviously looks very difficult to get a spanner on that. Not enough space. So what I'm going to try and do is get a screwdriver, wedge it in the gap there, and then we'll try with a nut gun underneath. I'll try and video this. Might be a bit tricky, not got enough hands. Whew. Right, well that ain't going very easy. Let me try the other side. Right, it's going to take, I might have to cut the nuts off the bottom so I can get the seat out, and then I'll worry about replacing the bolts afterwards, I think. Yeah, they're just spinning at the moment. If I can get enough grip on the top here, I might get them undone, but they are tight. Right, unfortunately, there's no way they're going to come undone. I can't get any grip on the top of the bolt to get the nut done from underneath. They're nylock as well, so it's a fight all the way off, and they're corroded. So we're going to angle grind them off. We'll get the seat out, and then we'll look at how we can secure the bolt inside so it makes it easier when it refits it. Now, it might be just a case that I tack weld a little bit of weld on top of those bolts so they're captive in effect, but you know, they're no special bolts in any way. They'll just be, I would imagine, 8.8 tensile strength, 13 mil. So let's cut them off, let's get the seat out, and then we'll decide the next plan of action. So there we go, relatively straightforward. We've not damaged, in fact we've not touched any of the chassis rail at all. All looks just as good. We should be able to lift the seat out now. So I probably could have done this first, but the actual seat belt is fastened directly to the driver's seat, so we need to undo it down the bottom here. Would have probably been a little bit easier if I'd done it in the car. So there we go. So most exciting part of this job, you can't get under the TVR seats to hoover or to see what's under there. So what's under my Tamora seats? RTR Racing TVR Specialist. Chassis off restorations, new chassis, we don't need any of that. Chassis good on this one. A receipt. Super unleaded, 2023, it's always been treated to the good juice. And 10p. Woo! Right, so there's our seat on the bench. And if I lean it back, I was actually saying these bolts are pretty standard, but looking at that, no, they're not. So I'm gonna have to make sure I order the right bolts to go with this as well, or look around and see if I've got any. Probably just note there's lots of washers, see, on this back one here, so they've obviously done something to align the seat in the past, so make sure those washers go back on. Front ones, like I say, you can see the problem here. They're down inside there, but getting a socket on there just because you've got the seat in the way is nigh on impossible. So I need to have a bit of a fiddle around and see how these come out, because they must come out somehow. Maybe this rail moves forward a little bit more. Let me have a look. So what we can do, we can unbolt the runners from the seat. So if I move it back, we can get to the front runners. Move it the other way, we can get to the back runners. So if I remove the runners from the seat, we should then be able to get it off and access these bolts. But I'll be really interested to know, how did they tighten them up at the factory? Yeah, I don't know, but when they go back on, I think I'm just going to blob a bit of weld to make them captive. Just found one of these washers on the floor, so I would imagine that goes with this side. This will just be levelling up the seat. We can have a play around with that afterwards if we need to. Right. Oh dear, here we go. Here we go. Right, so I sort of cheated a little bit because these front nuts that hold the rails on are much easier to get to on the front. On the back, I did start dismantling the seat, but as you can see there, I just undone the front ones, pushed that aside. That then allows you to get this bolt out. It's got like a wedge-shaped washer on it. That wedge points forward. Not sure why it's wedged like that. But again, it'd be something to do with seat alignment. But that wedge fits perfectly inside the channel. So I think what I'll do when I stick a new bolt on and go back together is just weld the head of that bolt to the wedge. That will hold it in the channel, make it a lot easier. So that is that. Can't remember how this bit come out now. Oh, it just fits in. There we go. So for the moment, I'm just going to put the screws or bolts loosely back in, just while we're moving it around. some tape around there so I don't lose those washers off the bottom. Now we need to remove our actual seatbelt stalk. And there we go, we can see what's happened. It has just all broken up and fallen to pieces. So, yeah, the casing's gone, so there's no surviving that. Now, the new part's coming from Motaclan, it will be here tomorrow. It's got a longer stalk on it, which just makes it easier to get to as a driver. Obviously, we're going to clean all this seat up, get it ready to go back together. And I need to hunt around and find myself some correct bolts. Right, so while we're waiting, I've just used that as an opportunity to give the seat a good clean. Always amazes me on TVRs that when they build them, they use lots of glue to glue down the carpets and things like that, even the leather work. But you just constantly finding areas where glue has been sort of oversprayed or left on. So seats are all nicely cleaned up. I've used Auto Glim leather cleaner and leather care balm. The seats are actually in really good condition on this car, and considering that the base of the seat is only so thick, they are really comfortable. And then I always think the backs of the seats look pretty cool. Right, so I've had a look round, and frustratingly the buckle will turn up tomorrow, but I don't think I'll have the bolts. So the bolts that are on the car are M8 by 80, they're 8.8 tensile strength, but the most important bit is they're not threaded all the way. So you've got this shoulder here, which is not threaded. They are typically the sort of bolts that you would use on suspension components. It would be really tempting, I've got some M8 by 80 threaded bolts here, would be really tempting to use them, but these are not as strong. They'll both be rated at 8.8 tensile strength, so that is the clamping force. That's like stopping the bolt from stretching. So when you're clamping it down to the floor of the car, these are both rated the same, but in shear strength. So for instance, if you were this tensile strength is bolting the seat down to the floor of the car, so you've got that in 4 corners, and then you've got sort of 20mm contact points at each corner. Now things like wheel nuts, they rely on the clamping force to hold the wheel on, but in this sort of application the tensile strength of the bolt is bolting the seat down, and what's holding it in place in like the event of an accident, because that seat would try and shoot forward like that, what happens in that case is it will try and shear that bolt. It will try, you know, you've got the weight of me in it, nearly 15 stone, you've got the seat belts mounted to this as well, so you've got all that weight, a lot of G-force trying to push the seat forward like that. So you need to stop the bolt from shearing. So because these bolts are not threaded all the way, they are physically stronger in shear force than a threaded bolt. So really important that you use the right bolts going back on the car again, just for safety. Right, so 24 hours later, as promised, Motaclan are absolutely brilliant. So I think it's actually less than 24 hours after placing the order. There is my seatbelt stalk, £51 that. I did search on eBay, and I actually list one. It looks almost identical to this, apart from it's got a sensor on it for the warning light where the seatbelt's plugged in. It lists it for a TVR Tamora, but it's only £7.99. Now, do I trust my life with a £7.99 seatbelt stalk off eBay? No, I don't. It may well be the right one, but I'd rather go to Motaclan. Bit of peace of mind when I'm hooning it around. £7.99 seatbelt stalk surely can't be any good. So I've got new hardware as well. So we've got the M8 by 80 bolts, we've got new washers, and we've got new nuts. The only pain with them is I couldn't just buy 1 or 2. I had to buy a box of 100. I could have ordered some online and it would have taken a few days to get here, and it would have cost, I think it was about £6 for a pair of them. That was 16 quid, 100 bolts. That will last me a lifetime. If anyone needs any TVR seat bolts, I've got lots now, and some new nuts as well. Obviously the nuts will go on anything. So I've got some ideas for how this, I can grip that inside the rail. So let me turn the seat over and let's have a look. So what I think has happened over the years, this section here, which is like a box section, which obviously that washer fits into, and it fits snugly down the bottom. Obviously the bolt head's slightly higher. So I think this has splayed out a little bit over the years, and that is why it no longer grips the bolt. So when I go back together, I'm not going to weld it in place. I'm hopefully just going to put the bolt through. I'll get some mold grips, clamp it up, and when I clamp it up, that is actually quite tight in there now. So hopefully that'll work without me having to weld anything. Yeah, I'm quite confident with some mold grips on there, just squeezing it in a bit, that's going to grip the bolt when I tighten it up. This bit only goes one way round, so make sure we get it correct. Just double check that. Yeah. I'll leave that off for the moment because I need to get the other side in. Right then, that's our seat pretty much ready to go back in the car. Just reverse order it before. Those washers on the bottom, obviously they'll drop off, so I've just put some there's some sticky blue tack stuff around the bottom, just hold them in place. And like I say, I've got 4 or 5 washers on one side and 2 on the other, so it's obviously just to align the seat properly. And we've got to remember to connect up the seatbelt anchor on this side. Right, so underneath we are all done. Obviously new hardware on there. Squeezing the seat rails inside did pinch up that bolt, so we were able to tighten them up okay. So if you are going to do this job, same trick, you probably don't need to cut it off like I did. Squeeze up the seat rail so it grips on those bolts. I guess if they're really corroded and they're really tight, you may still have a problem. So there we go, pleased with that. It was a bit more of a faff than I thought it was going to be. Just obviously make sure your seatbelt stalk works, make sure the seat operates okay. The one thing I have noticed is the seat is stiffer to move backwards and forwards. It was quite loose before, in fact almost too loose, and that's probably where those runners have expanded, got a bit of slop in them, but now we've got new bolts in there. I tightened them back in so it pressed against the bolts. It's stiffer now to go backwards and forwards, which I'm absolutely fine with, to be honest. So nice little DIY job done there. Hopefully that's useful to you. If you enjoyed today's video, please remember to give it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, please do consider subscribing. It's free, and I'll be back again with the next one. Glad I didn't fit those $7.99 eBay seatbelt stalks. Maybe they work okay, but it would have always been in the back of my mind. At least buying from Motaclan, I know they're going to be a quality part.